tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to the
Good evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, what do you know? Good evening, Cayman Islands. Yes. And to all of our Sabrina Speaks family tuning in from near and far. Hello, happy Thursday to you, and welcome to one and all as you actually make your way. Yes, remember to share the link. Let them know we're alive. Another episode of Sabrina Speaks is getting ready, well on our way. For this Thursday, the eve of the weekend. Yes, it's another Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Yes, I'm Sabrina. For all of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome to you. We are broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands, Monday to Friday from 5 until 7, right here on CMRTV.com. And definitely you're streaming us on YouTube as well. Yes, it's good to be here with you on this Thursday, despite it being a solemn afternoon. It's been a rough 48 hours with everything, but we're keeping doing our best to keep things together here in an island, because when one family is struck, the close knit of a small island development state, such as the Cayman Islands, when one family hurt, we all hurt some way, somehow. And I just want to say right now that our thoughts and prayers are with every person right now who has lost a loved one. Be it you may know them directly or indirectly, and it just shows you the fragility of life. And I just want us to we need prayer. We just need, oh gosh, with everything that's happening and the closeness of each other, be it professionally that you may know someone through a family friend, or you could be a relative, losing someone who goes from work or leaves home and go to work, and they're not coming home. That hits differently when you put it like that. That's an empty space at a table, around a luda game, at church, at work. And the exact connections, those kids, family, loved ones, partners, you feel that. So I just had to do that today because it's just so much. It's almost like every time I'm going live, you hear something. And I just want you all to know that from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family, whether or not I know you intimately or through professional dealings, or that has nothing to do with it. The hurt doesn't discriminate. The pain, the loss does not discriminate. And from all of us here, the Sabrina Speaks family, I want you to know that our thoughts and prayers are with you as you navigate this time. And there are no words that can really console. There's no blueprint of how people can actually mourn a loss. But I just want you to know that you're in our thoughts and our prayers. And that's just not cliche either. That's from the bottom of my heart as a host here. And to everyone who is going through something right now, I just want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. We don't have to be in your face all the time, but you don't have to take struggles and pains and hardships all alone. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. And this is why I constantly reinforce the importance of creating a safe space, somewhere where people can feel loved, appreciated, respected, as we continue to grow and learn in this civic space, in this space where, you know, it's just a community. It's a family. It's different. And this is why I reach out to people. I do. But I just wanted to just do that before we get into today's episode and the bells and whistles of what today's episode is about. As we continue to build and learn here in this space, I just want everyone to know that, you know, we are here for you, and our thoughts and prayers are with you as well as you navigate this time. And out of respect, you know, we just want you to know we're here for you. So welcome, and thank you for joining me today. The episode we want to be talking about later on in the show is talking about OfReg and who they are, what their mandate truly is, and why so many misconceptions continue as well to circulate. And it is my goal this evening in this episode isn't to point fingers or create tension, but to bring more clarity and understanding and a bit more balance to the conversation that has become sometimes a little complicated and than it needs to be. So I'm encouraging you all, please, to take a breather, take a deep breath, clear your head, and walk through those as we go through this with honesty and curiosity, and definitely with respect. But remember, the opinions of myself, guests, and my participants is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional regarding any specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all of its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. Like I said, good evening. Welcome. I see you all taking your time coming in. It's good to be back with you this evening. And I am here. Let's get straight into things. And I didn't get the image from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Not so sure, but I do have this evening's weather report. Let's just get to it because we got a lot of information I want to share with you today. And of course, you're welcome. You're welcome to join in. I love your participation. But let's just take a look at this evening's weather report. We're expecting mostly clear skies tonight with temperatures falling to around 75 degrees Fahrenheit with and lightly northerly winds. A brief isolated shower is possible, but most areas remains dry. Sun will set this evening at 6:36. Tomorrow's outlook is for increasing clouds and scattered morning showers with a daytime high of 81 and fresh northerly winds. Conditions gradually improve through the afternoon at sunrise tomorrow at 6:29 in the morning. Now, where your outlook for the weekend is that Saturday will be mostly sunny and breezy with a high around 82 and only a slight chance of passing shower. Sunday stays partly sunny and warm, will reach approximately 81 with a very low chance of rain. Ideal beach plans for you if you want to do some outdoor activities coming up this weekend. But of course, our compliments, our friends there at Cayman Islands National Weather Service, we will definitely keep on to our local stations as well for the latest in those developments. But good evening, everyone, and welcome to all of you this evening. It's so good to see you coming in. You know, I big you up, of course, we will definitely keep you in the loop with all the things that are happening. But it's time for us to take a look at what's happening in our news this evening. The Department of Education Services has launched an investigation following a physical confrontation between a secondary school student and a contracted bus driver on Wednesday afternoon. Now, the incident, which is captured on camera, is now under official review as authorities work through to determine the circumstances surrounding the altercation. DES has yet to release further details, but confirms that the matter is being treated with urgency as inquiries continue. In other local news this evening, the Cayman Islands Prison Service is continuing its focus on leadership development, announcing that senior managers recently completed a performance management training session. The workshop, facilitated by Alison Lovingood from the Portfolio of Civil Service, covered the purpose and process of effective performance management, including the use of SMART objectives. Officials say the training is part of an ongoing effort to strengthen accountability, improve clarity, and support continuous improvements across the organization. HMCIPS maintains that developing strong leadership remains essential to delivering high standards of safety, security, and public service. And in other local news, we take it over to Customs and Border Control. They're facing growing scrutiny after officials confirmed a serious incident at the Elgin Avenue office last week. While CBC initially described the shutdown as a temporary operational disruption, new reporting suggests the situation was far more severe. According to Cayman Mall Road, the closure was triggered after a small number of Cuban detainees allegedly defecated in their holding cells and smeared the feces on walls, forcing an emergency cleanup and the evacuation of staff. Cayman News Service also reported that staff became ill following the use of excessive cleaning chemicals after the incident, raising further questions about why detainees were being held at that facility and while the full details are not disclosed sooner. CBC has not provided additional clarification, and several key questions remain unanswered as the investigation continues. Turning our attention to regional news, geopolitical tensions are rising in the Caribbean tonight as Russia moves to supply fuel to Cuba amid the island's deepening energy crisis. Multiple international reports confirm that at least one Russian-linked tanker, the Hong Kong-flagged Seahorse, is carrying roughly 200,000 barrels of diesel and is expected to arrive in Cuba within days. Additional reporting indicates that other sanctioned Russian tankers are also en route, transporting hundreds of thousands of barrels of crude oil and gas as Havana struggles through one of the most severe fuel shortages in years. The shipment comes as the United States continues to enforce strict sanctions that have sharply limited Cuba's access to foreign fuel. Analysts say that the Russian deliveries represent a direct test of Washington's pressure campaign, and the United States officials are closely monitoring the tankers' movements as they approach the region. Other international news making today's news headlines here on Sabrina Speaks. Lawmakers in Florida have rejected a proposal that would have banned marriages between first cousins. The measure, known as House Bill 733, failed to pass in the state Senate after legislators declined to advance it before the session deadline. The bill sought to prohibit what it defined as incestuous marriages, including unions between individuals who share grandparents. Had it passed, the law would have taken effect in 2026 and ended legal recognition of such marriages in the state. Now, with the bill's failure, Florida remains one of 16 U.S. states where first cousin marriages is still permitted. Supporters of the legislation say they expect the issue to return in a future session. Now, turning our attention over to international news, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel did not drag the United States into its escalating conflict with Iran, insisting the country has acted alone in recent strikes on Iranian gas facilities. Meanwhile, global energy markets are reacting sharply as gas prices have surged more than 20% after fresh attacks on key energy infrastructures across the Middle East, including strikes affecting Qatar's major gas operation. Analysts warn that the continued regional instability could drive prices even higher in days ahead. In other international news, now new global data from UNESCO shows that more than half of the world's education system is now restricting or banning mobile phones in schools. The latest analysis released for International Day of Digital Learning confirms that 114 countries, representing 58% of all education systems, have adopted national policies limiting phone use in classrooms, a dramatic increase from just 24% 3 years ago. UNESCO says the rapid expansion of these policies reflects growing concern over classroom distraction, and the impact on constant connectivity on students' learning. But the agency warned that bans alone are not enough. Schools are being urged to pair restrictions with stronger digital literacy education, helping students to develop critical thinking and responsible technology habits. On this International Day of Digital Learning, UNESCO is reiterating its call for human-centered rights-based approach to technology in education, and one that supports learning without allowing digital tools to overshadow it. And let's take it across the pond this evening to the United Kingdom. Tonight, the royal family is being praised for taking unprecedented steps to honor Ramadan during this week's state banquet at Windsor Castle. In a historic break from the long-standing royal tradition, King Charles and Queen Camilla ordered an entirely vegan menu for the evening, a gesture made especially to respect the faith of Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and his delegation, who are observing the Islamic holy month. Now, the banquet has also featured a number of additional adaptations, including non-alcoholic beverages, such as specially crafted Nigerian-inspired mocktails, and a schedule adjusted to allow the president to break his fast privately before joining the royal family. Now, this marks the first state visit by a Muslim head of state during Ramadan since 1928, and the royal officials say that modifications reflect a deliberate effort to show cultural respect and diplomatic sensitivity. Observers note that these changes represent one of the most significant departures from traditional state banquets protocol in nearly a century, underscoring the importance of the visit and the palace's commitment to accommodating religious observance at the highest levels of state ceremony. And to close out this evening's news on a lighter note, a generational divide over digital communications is definitely making headlines again. And this time, guess what? It's all about emojis. A growing number of Gen Z users on platforms like TikTok and Reddit says thumbs up emoji comes across as passive-aggressive, dismissive, and even hostile, especially in workplace chats. Now, the debate gained traction after Reddit posted in which a young employee described receiving a simple thumbs up from a colleague as feeling more like shut down than a genuine acknowledgement. For older generation, the thumbs up has long meant okay or sounds good, but younger users argue that the symbol reads as cold, abrupt, and disengaged. Now, the same divide applies to the classic smiley face, which Gen Z often interprets as sarcastic rather than friendly. Coverage from outlets includes Metro, The Independent, and NDTV highlights how these differing interpretations have turned a once neutral emoji into a joint of cultural friction. While the debate is largely lighthearted, communication experts say it reflects a real challenge in modern workplace, how easily tone can be misread through screens, and how the same symbol can carry very different meanings across generations. That concludes this evening news right here on Sabrina Speaks. And we will give you more as we continue to follow developing stories, not only in our region, but definitely around the world. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you. It's so good to be back with you here on this Thursday. And if you're wondering, Sabrina's Speaks show is taking on a different kind of feel. Yeah, it is. You know why? Because I'm preparing for when CMR TV is also doing this live on radio. Yeah. So we're calling it, and we're definitely embracing it. And I am definitely excited for where we're going in this space. And you should be as well. Oh, yeah. Well, let me let you know that today, and for those of you who thought that today was not the day for you to, or it conflicted with something for you, just to let you know that the groundbreaking ceremony for the George Dixon Park in East End was postponed earlier on. That should have taken place at 1:30 today, but it's now been pushed to March 26th because of the forecasted weather, inclement weather. So if you wanted to go but couldn't make it today, look at there. It's been postponed. So the new date is now March the 26th at 1:30. Yes. So the groundbreaking ceremony did not take place today in East End. It has been pushed back because of inclement weather until next week. So that's Thursday, March 26th at 1:30. Also, in our community calendar, Red Sky at Night is taking place this weekend. Yes, on the Harkwell Theater grounds. So make sure you grab your friends and family and you go out and enjoy this wonderful evening. Yes, it starts from 4 p.m. Lots of artisans will be out and crafts, and it's a good time to meet a lot of people. Yeah, so that is taking place this Saturday from 4 until 11. I'll actually want to drop in as well and take in the sights and pick up a few things as well. And of course, nominations are open for Proud of Them. Yes, awards are back and looking for new inspiring stories. So there you go. Log on to youthservices.ky/proud of them for more information and nominate a young person. Yes, yes, yes. There you have it for what's making our community calendar for this week. And should you have something that you want me to also mention here in this space, I'd be more than happy to do it, of course. Now, we are celebrating this today. Thank you for all the love that's shared on the space. Let's celebrate Rayanne, who's celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Rayanne. Don't worry, I won't embarrass you. Hope you had a good day. You're having a good day. Hope lunch was delish. Miss Green, soon to be. Yeah, I said that. Yep. But happy birthday to you, my dear. Wishing you all the love from all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family. And if you want to share the love, just drop it in the link below. Let's share the love here from all of us. Rayanne, as she celebrates her birthday today. I see you all. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Connie Bonnie's in the house. How are you? So good to have you join us as usual. Oh, it's so good to see you guys. I look forward to this, but I allow you to just pile on in, and then we just give you your whole movement. Like you get your whole section, and then it continues from here straight on. So I allow you to build it, and then you share it with your friend. She's on. The crazy lady's on. Hey, Andrew, how you doing? Blessed Thursday to you, my love. Good evening, Marshall. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, Andrew, every day is a blessing. Just a simple check on your neighbor, coworker, family. It only takes a text, phone call, or email. Not like many years ago when you didn't have phones, cell phones, or social media. Show some love. Yes, that's what it's all about. Yeah, showing love. Because you never know. You never, ever know. And sometimes people may say you're snoopy, especially if you're you got a good relationship with your neighbors and stuff. You don't have to be all up in their business, but you can see a change in patterns, that sort of stuff. Sometimes there isn't nothing wrong with just, giving a friendly nudge to see how everybody's doing. Yeah, I'm known for that every now and again. Hey, Damien, good evening to you. So good to have you here. Good evening, all. And he says this evening, for all of you who waits for Damien Henry's little quotes, appreciation can make a day, even change a life. Your willingness to put into words is all that is necessary. So profound. Thank you very much, Damien. Always look forward for your words of wisdom, your little quotes of the day. Love it, love it, love it. Inspiring. Good evening to you. How are you? Present. Thank the Lord. Remember those days in school? Good to have you with us as well. How are you, Aliano? Good evening to you, my sweet. It is good to have you here. Yep. So, what do you say? A soft generation. Yep. They're taking it literally. Aliano, can you imagine? You got to be careful now what generation you using the thumbs up for in your communications, because it can just totally be misread. It could be misunderstood. So yeah, that's something for us to get used to. So I got to be careful how I'm using the thumbs up. Be weird. You know what? I know where it's coming from, but it's good to know. And I thought it was very good for me to actually highlight that as a softer note here this evening, to let you know really what's going on, because you may be doing this. And something I learned, I don't know if you guys are aware, you see the praying hands. I get to understand that's not praying hands. That's like a high five. And all along, I've been using that as praying hands when it's actually a high five. I think it's one of those hybrids emojis that right now it's based on the context that it's being used, that it could show solemn and praying hands, but it was actually intended to be a high five, like high five. And here we are, gosh, and a solemn, sad occasion. And we're sending this, what we're thinking is praying hands, but it was actually a high five. So yeah, but if you didn't know, now you know. But look, it all depends on context. Context matters. But the thumbs up thing I thought was something worth sharing here with all of you this evening. I chuckled when I read it, and I was like, just like you, Aliano, this is exactly what I'm saying. And I'm like, oh God, not again. Not in a dismissive or rude way, but I'm like, really? This is just this, yeah. And it's newsworthy. It's, if you follow it, yeah, you would be floored at how they're taking it personal, and how us older generations are just like, it's just a darn okay. I mean, why do you have to split hairs on this? It's just emoji. But you know what? Nothing beats word. Type it out so there's no misunderstanding. And then sometimes your choice of words could come across a little weird, because remember, you're not hearing the pitched tone, you're just reading it. Look, communication is weird. Hey, Jimbo, tuned in. Love you lots. Connie Bonnie, your man's back. No, not your man. Our man's back. Jimbo's in the house. Hey, Mitzi, how you doing? If you want to jump in live, the number is 345-936-8255 to join in on the conversation. Share what's on your mind, comment as well, or send me a WhatsApp. And I've been getting a lot of WhatsApps. Thank God I know how to grab it from one screen and just put it here and just engage. But I'd like when you guys call in live. It puts a different element as well, remaining respectful, being part of the conversation. But I also like all of your feedback that you're doing, posting in the links below. And I do my best to make sure I cover and get to all of them as we engage, because I like the fact that you are participating with the subject at hand. But for all of you just joining us this evening, good evening. I'm Sabrina. It's good to be back with you here today. And we're going to have, the aim is to be calm, clear, informative, no politics, no noise, no drama, just understanding on this topic. Because when people, understand how really things work, they feel more empowered. We see that. They could end up being less frustrated as well. And then they feel more confident navigating life here and around the world with everything. God knows we need him right now. So this episode this evening, I want to take a deep dive into, in plain everyday language, of OfReg, into OfReg. And that is the utilities regulation and the competition office, right? And who they are, why they were created, what their legal mandate actually is, because that's a lot of misconception that I'm seeing out there. And most importantly, what they can and cannot do, especially when it comes to fuel. Yeah. So my aim this evening, of course, with your participation, of course, with your input and feedback, I want to break it down simply. I want to, do my best to clear up any misconceptions or misunderstandings. And I want to take us through a little bit more of the facts that I found based on my research and, that are real. And some, I would say 99% has been verifiable I don't want to bring stuff that is hearsay. And of course, fact base. So I thank you all for joining me this evening. And at the end of the day, with everything that's going on, I thought it was topical. I thought that it would make sense, understanding what we're about to face and what's happening geopolitically when it comes to fuel, crude, and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I thought it was fitting for me to just break this organization down, not to point fingers, as I say, not to be political, unbiased, just have the real conversation as we continue to elevate talk here on Sabrina Speak. Now, Cayman is growing. We see that, whether or not we want it or not. And like I gave in that episode yesterday, if we just decided to say no more, only tourists, no more work permits, no more PR, but anybody that is here would qualify, any application that is actually in process would be processed, we're still growing. Anybody's of childbearing age, life will still happen, right? But we can't say that Cayman is not growing. It's still growing. Our cost of living, oh yes, is rising. That is around the world with everything that's happening right now. And also with what we're seeing happening around the world, we're seeing and hearing fuel prices fluctuate because of global markets, shipping supply chains, and of course, everything that's happening international. And in moments like this and like these, people ask the questions. We saw what happened last weekend with the rumor that gas prices were going to go up and how it took off by storm. And kudos to Mr. Miles and Sandra who facilitated OfReg's representation to come in to just try and calm things down. But we saw what happened and people started talking, and the power of social media, the power of the internet, the pace in which information can be disseminated is totally different than the days where you had to wait for the 6 o'clock news or that news. You can put something breaking news now and it goes to millions in a second. But in moments like this, people naturally ask, and I've heard the questions, even if it comes across indirect. Who regulates our fuel? Why are our prices going up? Why are our prices so high? What is OfReg supposed to do, especially if you're seeing the prices going up? You're like, well, what the heck they're supposed to do? What's the sense of having them? These are the questions that people normally ask. And I've heard people ask as well, are they setting the prices? Are they responsible for the increases? What's their use? I've literally heard it. And the truth is, I shone a light on it, I think it was on Monday. Many people don't actually know what OfReg role really is. And hence they're like putting all the blame on them. Now I'm unbiased. I'm just educating you and I'm bringing it from an education perspective today. I'm not taking sides. I'm just letting you know what the role is, along with some other critical information, right? And that's not their fault. Yeah, what their role is really not their fault. And at the end of the day, I'm hoping that we're going to fix what it is. And so that you'll be able to understand exactly, in plain English, in plain old layman's terms, exactly what OfReg is. And they are Utility Regulations and Competitions Office. Back in the day, they were created under the Utility Regulations and Competition Law, and that was in 2016. And they officially begun operations in January of 2017. And what their job is to regulate certain sectors in Cayman. Yeah. Their responsibility is to regulate certain sectors in Cayman, such as your fuel, electricity, water, and ICT. ICT is our telecoms, broadcasting, those industries, okay? They are the regulators for fuel, electricity, water, and ICT, broadcasting, televisions, that sort of stuff. They're not, though. a private company. So don't misunderstand that. They're not private. And they're not a political body either. Now we know people may say, try hush. If cabinet has to appoint them, they are a political body. No, they're not. Okay. Even how their boards are actually selected, it's an application process. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much because I want to keep it centered on this particular section. So it was just to dispel, try hush. They're political. Okay, that narrative. I'm unbiased. Okay. They are an independent regulator established under the law. And what their purpose is to protect consumers, promote consumption or competition, ensure safety, ensure reliability of essential services, and make sure that the companies follow the rules. They also have a responsibility to provide, remember, they're the regulators, to provide oversight where the market needs it. Okay? That is the foundation that makes up what OfReg is. Yes. Andrew. Hey, Miss Dorothy, how you doing? Andrew says, OfReg is short for Office of Regulations. So in layman's terms, that's really what it is. And this is where most, Andrew, to be honest with you, most of the misconceptions come from. Because at first, back in the day, I thought they were there to really be like, you said you want consumer protection, where, if you feel like you've been outdone, the electricity bill, that you would go to them and you'd report them. A lot of people had that in the back of their mind as well. But this is where the most misconception comes from. And I'm talking about their role in the fuel sector, which is right now taking center stage from around the world. And based on what I have actually researched, OfReg has in the fuel sector their safety and compliance, right? They regulate fuel shortage, fuels storage facilities to make sure that they're up to speed, fuel trucks, gas stations. Remember now, they're still regulating them. And any sites that handle dangerous substances. And their job is to ensure that safety standards are met. Number two, their responsibility as well is economic regulation and consumption, because part of their remit is that they also monitor market structure, competition levels, and whether any company has significant market power. Now, whether barriers exist, whether there are existing barriers that are there that prevent fair competition, okay? That falls onto what they monitor. And then another part of their responsibility is fuel quality. OfReg ensures that the fuel imported to the Cayman Islands meets required standards. And also what they do, they are responsible for monitoring global fuel prices. And they track international trends so that they can understand what is happening globally. Now, stick a pin there. That doesn't mean that they're going to tell the vendors how much to sell their fuel for. Okay? They track international trends so that they can understand what's happening around the world. And then their remit is that they are a consumer advocacy. You hear all of that? Because what they do then is that they provide information to help customers understand the market. Listen to that. They provide information to help customers understand the market. Now, whether you feel they're doing enough at doing that, that's another episode, another show, because this is why there's a lot of misconceptions. And I feel that if that is one of their remits, then they probably need to look at doing a better job in that, right? Another part of their remit is that they are responsible for licensing and registration. Yes, that is, they're responsible for fuel importers because these importers must be registered under the fuel market regulations of 2017. And you can pull up all these legislation on Google as well. It's easy read, to be honest with you, but I'll break it down in layman's terms for you, not line by line. But what I'm saying is when you connect the dots, this conversation becomes so much easier. And those are the 6 headings, really, that they are responsible for doing, right? So it's licensing and regulation, consumer advocacy, monitoring global fuel prices, fuel quality, economic regulations and competition, and safety and compliance. This is their role in the fuel sector. Not to go tell Beekman gas station hostess how much to sell their gas for. That's not their role, okay? Those are 6 responsibilities. And I just timeline myself by saying Beekman gas station. But for all of you, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Now, what OfReg cannot do is another big misconception. And exactly what I alluded to earlier on, they do not set fuel prices. Fuel prices here in the Cayman Islands, all 3 islands, are based on a number of factors. And in my research for today, they depend on global oil prices. So every time we hear these, what's happening with the price of oil and crude and all that sort of stuff? Yeah. Yes. Shipping costs. OfReg does not set fuel prices because our prices here in Cayman are based on global oil prices, shipping costs, insurance, storage, location, operational costs, and also exchange rates. Yes. And what OfReg cannot do is that they cannot force companies to sell fuel at specific prices. That would require a different type of law entirely. And OfReg cannot control global markets. Of course not. They can't. They can only regulate what happens within Cayman. And OfReg does not import fuel. Yeah. Private companies do. Private companies that are regulated and given permission and authorization through OfReg, the necessary trade and business license, that sort of stuff. Yeah, they do. Those are private companies. And OfReg does not subsidize fuel. No, that's not their mandate. And I think once you realize this, you will understand exactly or have a better picture of their role. Now, at any point in time you want to weigh in on this conversation, please feel free. The phone lines are open. 936-8255. That's 345-936-8255. At the end of the day, you know, we actually need to be in a position where at the end, we always understand. And many have said, you know, it can't happen because there was a sense of ease. But for others who knew otherwise, they are very much awake and aware as to what's happening international. And even with these misconceptions, these are not about people who are ignorant. Please don't take that. They exist because the information is not always explained in simple terms and everyday language so that people can have the right information at all times. So I'm doing my best in this episode to try and fix that. And I see right now one. Hold on, let me get this. Yeah. The misconception, like I said, for those who are just joining us, is that they set fuel prices. No, They don't. Fuel prices are not set. They're set and is driven by the global markets that we see here, shipping, insurance, and storage, and all of that sort of stuff. And all of these misconceptions that they can force to lower prices, no, no, no. They can't do that. They don't import, they don't do anything like that. No. We have a WhatsApp. Sabrina, why does fuel go up so fast but never seems to come down as quickly? Great question. And even it comes in almost like the interest rates for the banks. People say that. But I must say, based on who you bank with, we respond, you will see us respond in real time. Fuel companies, my dear, they buy fuel in bulk, in shipments, not day to day. And I'm quite sure when you speak to some of these providers, they will tell you exactly how it really works. I'm only bringing the higher level based on my research and what I found to allay, to avoid any misconceptions of the true role. Okay? So it comes in shipments and not day by day. So if, let's say, a company bought fuel, from what I can understand, at a higher global price, that's the price that they should sell it until the shipment is used up. My keyword is should. I'm not telling you the practice. I can't speak on behalf of any of the other fuel providers right here on the island. This is just really how it should work. And when global prices go up, then your lower price only applies when the next shipment arrives. Now, if there's somebody out there in the industry that can break that down, you're free to call in 936-8255. Now, it's not manipulation. It's simply how the inventory, from what I understand, cycles work. So you may say, well, oh my gosh, it's going up to X amount of dollars per barrel today. But if they say that they have 2 months or a month or 3 weeks supply, whatever the supply is, why am I feeling that now? My dear, I wouldn't be able to answer that because remember, every time a shipper or someone touches a product, we, the end user, feel it. You pay for the storage, you pay for the utility, you pay for everything, all the staff, the monitoring, keeping up to date. These are all the things that impact exactly what you and I pay. Yeah. And OfReg, again, does not set or adjust those prices. All they do is monitor the market and make sure that they ensure fairness is there, but they do not control the global oil costs or shipment timing either. So I hope that you realize exactly how that all plays in to what was being rumored over the weekend. Yeah. Now, let's talk about what OfReg does do in the fuel sector. Damien, I got you here. With all the fake news going around, but I was reading an article that states the ombudsman has criticized OfReg for attempting to withhold information on commercial grounds, stated that the regulator failed to demonstrate why records regarding renewable energy tenders should not be public. I would have to look in on that, to be honest, to see whether or not it was fake or not. I would have to look more in that. I wouldn't be able to actually weigh in on that, Damien, but that's something definitely I'll look at because I'm quite sure this topic will not go away as we see what's happening around the world. This will not die. So we will bring this back up, but I'll definitely flag this and I'll look more into that because it will come back up and tomorrow is open like Friday. So who to tell? But let's take a little bit of look into what OfReg does do in the fuel sector based on my findings, okay? As I said, they monitor the global prices, and this helps them to understand what is happening internationally. And they also review local pricing trends. They not to set the price, but to ensure that the market is behaving competitively. Now, some of you may disagree that they're doing a good job at that. Only them can defend themselves. because we're all feeling it and we're all about to feel it just like everywhere else in the world. And OfReg also collect information from fuel importers because this is required under the fuel market regulation law that they have to collect data from fuel importers. Also, OfReg analyzes whether any company has significant market power. And this, my friends, is a legal term or meaning that a company has enough control to influence the market. So you want to make sure that it's balanced. Yeah. You want to make sure that it's balanced. We talk about accountability all the time. We are hearing what OfReg's responsibility are. We hear what they regulate, what they can and cannot do. We're telling you what they should be doing now. Now, if you're pleased with it or you feel otherwise, hey, drop your comment in the box. Trust me, they listen. Okay. Now, they also ensure safety at facilities, and this includes, of course, gas stations, storage tanks, and fuel trucks. You've heard back in the day that there was a gas station or 2 gas stations that over time they have to dig up their tanks and get new tanks because of safety concerns and all that sort of stuff. We have seen gas stations completely closed down and like doing a refurbishing. And this is what they do. They actually have to ensure safety at fuel facilities. And this includes gas stations, storage tanks, and fuel trucks as well. Yes, that's their responsibility. And they also ensure that fuel quality, making sure that they check what's imported meets required standards. Yes. And they also provide consumer information. This is a part of their responsibility. What does that mean? Their job, OfReg's job, is to help us, the public, understand the market. Yes, that's a part of their job. And there's a reason why it may seem repetitive, but it's to make sure that you get it. Because there's a lot to actually just try and process, to digest. And I'm making sure that whenever it comes up again, you're not pointing the fingers at the wrong person, but you have an understanding of how it really works. Before OfReg existed, what actually used to happen in Cayman is that we had multiple separate regulators for different sectors. We had one for ICT, which your TV and your broadcasting, and one for electricity, another for water, and so on. They were all fragmented. They were all separate. And this created duplication and inefficiencies and sometimes outright confusion. And hence, this was all brought together now under one umbrella in 2016. And that became the birth of the utilities regulation and competition law. That's exactly what the piece of legislation is called. And that, my friends, created a unified regulator, hence the birth of OfReg. You have heard members of parliament saying this government department are talking to that one and this one and that one and that one. Yeah, that was what was happening in this sector. So in 2016, we have a unified body now called OfReg. And their goal at that time was to streamline regulation, of course, improve efficiency, strengthen consumer protection, promote fair competition, also modernize oversight, and their main aim as well was to reduce duplication. Yes. And this standard, when you look at this is really a standard practice in many other jurisdictions as well. One regulator overseeing multiple essential services. And before 2016, we were all individualized. And now we're one. Yeah. So do you feel that at the end of the day, with this while being under one umbrella, we're better off, or were we better off fragmented all over the place? It held together. It's held together. What's your take on it? If you didn't know the history before, I hope you know it now. We got another WhatsApp coming in, and keep your messages coming in, please. I'll do my best to answer them. Sabrina, does OfReg have the power to punish companies if they break the rules? Yeah, that's a straight up yes. They have the right to punish these companies if they break the rules, as long as it's within the law. OfReg themselves, in accordance to legislation, they can issue fines, penalties. They can also enforce notices and also compliance orders. So that's a big yes. And another thing, when a company violates the regulations or even safety standards, once they can find that they have actually done that in accordance to law, of course. But what they cannot do is that they cannot punish companies for global price increases, because that, my friend, is not a violation. Their enforcement powers, to answer your question directly, is tied strictly to safety, compliance, licensing, and competition rules. So the answer is yes, but only within the confines of safety, compliance, competition rules, and licensing. They can't penalize them then for the prices that are happening in the world. But thank you for that. Good question. Good question. Boy, I'm glad I paid attention. Now you may ask, what are OfReg limits? And this, my friends, is very important, because even as a regulator, they themselves have limits, and OfReg themselves is no different. Okay? They're no different. Again, for sake of us understanding, they cannot set fuel prices. There's a reason why I'm repeating these things. They cannot control global markets. They cannot force companies to sell fuel at a loss. They cannot change cost of shipping or insurance. OfReg cannot subsidize fuel. And OfReg cannot interfere with private business operations unless the law allows it. They only have to act within the confines of the legislation that is passed. And these, my friends, limits are not unique to us here in the Cayman Islands. They exist in most countries. Yeah. And understanding these limitations also helps us, I'm hoping, as a public, to know where to direct their concerns and their expectations of this organization. Yeah. Damian Henry says, while they do the regulating, who regulates OfReg? The government, cabinet, to a degree. And I stand to be corrected there, because they're a subsidiary, but they're an independent body. They still answer to the DG. And of course, in consultation with cabinet and the minister. Right now, OfReg falls under Minister J.E. Banks. Yeah. Yep. So accountability, but accountability still rests under the deputy governor. So very good question, Damien. But they remain independent. They communicate with the minister. The minister then communicates back to their cabinet members and caucus colleagues. And of course, your premier has direct access at all times. So the premier can, but you cannot be deemed with interfering with the board. No, they can't seem to directly or indirectly interfere with the board. Now, let's take a look at how the fuel markets really work in small island economies like ourselves, because that was the segment that I wanted to dig down a little bit deeper, because we know we suffer anyhow just by being a small island, not creating our own fuel or energy. Everything is pretty much imported here, just like our food and everything that we see on the shelves. So I thought it was important for me to talk about the whole how the fuel market works here, and especially in our small islands, because I feel that understanding this a little bit more helps us to understand better why the prices move up and down the way that they do. I gave it a very high synopsis at the beginning, and then why regulators like OfReg really have the role that they have. We have already confirmed and have established that the Cayman Islands imports 100% of its fuel. And that's because we do not produce oil. We do not produce refined oil. We do not have any pipelines. Everything arrives by ship. And we rely on global suppliers. Yeah, global suppliers. We are totally dependent on them. So if you're thinking what's happening way over so, yeah, we rely on them. Okay. And what that means is that global oil prices, refinery output, shipment cost, insurance, international events, all affects us directly. And what happens in small island markets is that we unfortunately have less bargaining power. We do. Because countries that buy millions of barrels get better pricing. And what we find in ourselves is that small islands like ourselves, we buy smaller volumes. So we pay global markets. And shipping is a major, major cost factor because the fuel must be loaded, it must be transported, it must be insured, it must be offloaded, it must be stored, and it must be distributed. You're paying for those 6 elements alone. And when I say you're paying for it, every one of those steps has a cost. Remember, you ain't start getting it from the tank yet, and you're already paying for 6 costs from the supplier. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's probably 8 or 9 costs to put in whatever you need your fuel in. Yes. And Cayman, we know this for a fact, has high safety standards. Thank God. That's one thing we got to be thankful for. And that's a good thing. But safety, compliance also adds costs because inspections, equipment, training, and necessary infrastructure also has cost implications. Yeah. And because fuel is bought in shipments, even though smaller volumes because of our demand, we lack storage capacity and all that sort of stuff. We get more frequent shipments because we only can store so much. And that is why prices don't change instantly. And I'm hoping I'm breaking this down as best as I can. And companies sell that fuel that they already purchased at a price that they paid for it at the time. They will have an idea how much they consume, how much they use in a day, in a week, to know exactly when the shipment was bought at, let's say, $10 a barrel, just for the talk, when that should actually run out. And let's say then it drops to $8 when that $8 shipment that was put on top of the $10 should kick in. They have their metrics to work it out, but just talking it through and thinking about it, they must know their burn rate, their consumption rate based on the supply and demand. You understand? So none of this, my friends, is controlled by OfReg whatsoever. These are simply the realities of being a small island economy and why we feel it and why we should be concerned. about what's happening on the global stage when you hear the price of crude and what's happening to key infrastructure in jurisdiction that is being crippled themselves because of what's happening geopolitically. Hence the importance of me letting you know what OfReg's role is. Hey, Denver, how you doing? I never understood why government created OfReg. I'm blind because I don't see the benefit. Well, unless you're late for class, it was created back in 2016 because prior to 2016, you had water, electricity, ICT, and fuel all operating in silos. They were all independent, and it caused sometimes friction, misunderstanding, duplication of efforts. And they felt at that time in 2016, Denver, that it made sense to have them all under one umbrella, hence the birth of a law in 2016 that created them to be, as other jurisdictions are doing, and modernizing how we operate. And that is why it came now from being disjointed, from being separate entities under one umbrella, governed by OfReg, that is an independent body, even though it acts almost like a statutory, but it's independent, hybrid. So yeah, that's why it came about, because it was too disjointed. And as we continue to modernize, there were no laws. It appears everyone was creating their own laws for their industry specific. They just felt that putting in OfReg as a regulator to oversee all of these key organizations was valid at the time. And here we are today now, having them all under one umbrella. So I hope that clarifies that. Like everything else, conflict of interest is a possibility. I'm glad you said that before, Dean. Like everything else, conflict of interest is a possibility. And you're quite right. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So I got that one. I don't want to miss this one. Let me drag this here. Sabrina, why do different gas stations sometimes have different prices? Great question. Here's a simple explanation that I can tell you. What we see fuel companies set their own prices based on again, is that goes back shipping costs, operating expenses, business model, their actual location as well could have a lot to do with it. You see what the prices are in Little Cayman. You see what it is in Cayman Brac. Their location. And also their competition. But you may say, well, it ain't much competition over in the sister islands. Why is it so high? One outweighs the other because of the amount that, again, going to Little, going to Brac, where you may say there's no competition, it's even more cost to get that from here. So they may have 10 steps. Remember, beginning, I said there were 6 phases that determine the price. Sister islands could actually, and we rounded off to about 8. By the time it gets to the Little Cayman, even though you get to them first, yeah, you could have 2 or 3 more elements of cost factors to weigh in, and OfReg doesn't control that. So location, their competition, and again, OfReg does not set these prices, unfortunately. So yeah, their job is really, in case you're just joining us, to ensure that the market is fair. And grab this one. I'll get to this one. And not to dictate what each gas station says. Okay. So what we can also say, and I can weigh in on this a little bit more, is that different gas stations may actually have different rent. They may have different staff head count. They may have different costs for delivery and all that sort of stuff. Their overheads can weigh in a lot on it as well to do their markup, because it can vary because of all of these factors. And that's not normal. That isn't normal in most countries. So it can vary, to be honest, but for us, it's a little bit more delicate. So Denver, I hope that I answered you. And Dean, yeah, profound. And my anonymous WhatsApper. Now let's just go because wow, time is going by. It's amazing. I hope you're finding this episode informative. I hope you are. Let's talk then a little bit about I keep grabbing these messages. Yeah. Let's talk about the competition because this is one of OfReg's key responsibilities, right? I come into you, Damien. OfReg is that they monitor the market structure. Yeah, that's what they do. And they look at how many companies operate in the sector as well. And they also assess significant market power. And what this is a legal term, meaning a company has enough influence to affect the market. Yeah. And what they do as well is that they remove barriers to entry. And what I mean by that is that if a new company wants to enter the market, OfReg ensures the process is fair. Yeah. Whether or not you believe that or not. Yeah. Whether or not you want to believe that. Okay. And what OfReg do is that they ensure transparency. And what I mean by that for the context of this subject in this episode is that they require companies to provide information so that the regulator can understand the market in itself, right? And also what they do is that they protect consumers. Yeah, but how? Not by setting prices, but by ensuring that the market is not being manipulated, whether or not you agree with that. That's their job, nevertheless. Okay. And I'm hoping one day we could probably get a panel discussion on here so that we can really hear this out, because it may be a little scary, but I feel setting this type of foundation actually makes having the real conversation even easier, because you have been given the foundation to understand the basics of OfReg. So they shouldn't be intimidated or scared from really just having real conversations and opening up for just random questions to be asked. When you have an educated society, you don't have to be scared. You just answer it. We all are here to learn. But I'm really hoping that may actually come to reality one of these days, because you would have less misinformation being dispensed, to be honest, out there, and you'd have a better and educated society speaking from facts, coming from an informed perspective, and then speculations will have no room to play. You wouldn't run off when you hear certain things, or you would read into certain narratives. Put it like this, in layman's terms, you wouldn't be fooled so easily. Yeah, because you have the basics. And what OfReg actually do as well is that they enforce safety and compliance. And what I mean by that is that a safe market is a stable market. Yeah. And these are real, to be honest with you. And at the end of the day, they matter. Okay? So they enforce these compliance, and that in return creates a safe market, being that one of stability. Damien says, one of the main reasons they avoid keeping large amounts of fuel in storage is because ethanol blended fuel has a relatively short lifespan. Unlike pure gasoline, ethanol attracts moisture from the air, which can lead to a process called phase separation. This can begin to occur in as little as 1 to 3 months, especially if the fuel is stored in less than ideal conditions. Thank you for sharing that with us. No time to fact check that today, but I'll take your word for it. And of course, a lot of you can double check this as well. Dane says, are they a proactive organization or reactive? Very good question. OfReg, you mean? Proactive or reactive? Based on regulatory compliance and their responsibility, they react in the event that a breach has occurred that falls outside the laws and regulations. And proactive, I think they need to be a little bit more active on that part with the dissemination of information, really highlighting what they do especially in this critical time, and fuel and cost with the geopolitical climate and what it's centering right now. This is their opportunity to shine like a diamond and educate the public. Yeah. So proactive in that part, right now in this critical time, would be reactive for the purpose of this conversation, but we still have time for them to actually be shown in a positive light, Dean, I feel. And maybe this is the opening door for them. Who to tell? So do you even know what their website looks like? Do they have a Facebook page? I don't know. Do you know? But again, with the power of social media, with the access to Instagram and Facebook, it isn't hard to just every now and again, did you know? This is like almost like COVID. This is a time for the fuel sector, like OfReg, to shine, to get information out there. Anyone in the service industry or in this area should be actually shining right now to educate, inform, and to get ahead of any narratives. And they should be working in collaboration with the wider government. Again, the conversation comes up. Yeah, this is where you shine like a diamond to get ahead of the narrative, to get ahead any misconceptions. So I would feel right now they need to do a little bit more work, Dean, on their proactive nature, get some more information out there on really what they are, what they do. I hope that I've opened the door to share the information with you as to how they came about. But based on the temperature right now and the environment right now, this is a golden opportunity for them to shine, not outing fires like what happened alone on Sunday, which helped. But at the end of the day, that was another open door for them to expound in layman's terms as to what they are, who they are, what they do, their purpose. And it's not like you're kicking the can down the road by any means. You're just making sure your public is educated and informed. There isn't anything wrong with that. Plain and straight, how you doing this evening? Good to see you, my love. Good evening, Cayman and Sabrina. Sorry, but I'm late to class today. You may have to scroll back because we're talking about OfReg and how they came about. And yeah, I'm hoping that you will catch up a little later. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about the powers that OfReg does have, because again, this clarifies a lot of stuff now that we've gotten it and breaking it down about the proactive, reactive, and we have gone through that. But dissecting it into little pieces like this just make you retain a little bit more. And I've gotten your feedback, so thank you for that. Sometimes I do feel a little lonely, but thank you for your feedback. Now, under the utilities regulations, let me pull this here. Under the Utilities Regulations and Competition Law of 2016 and the Fuel Market Regulations Law of 2017, in a very high level at the beginning, I said what the authority is. They license and regulate fuel importers, and no one can import fuel without meeting the regulatory requirements, okay? And what they do is that they inspect facilities and vehicles and to ensure that safety standards are always top notch. There's a cost for that. And what they also do is enforce compliance, fines, penalties, compliance orders, and enforcement notices. I remember there was a case where, was it shortly in 2021? Shortly after I got elected, there was a location in Prospect where there was large amounts of fuel that was being stored literally along a roadside in those plastic containers. And let me tell you something, that was mayhem. What happened was a car caught fire and it drew an attention to something else. And let me tell you something, what was uncovered, this is public knowledge for the record. What was uncovered in that yard of stored diesel and gasoline The Lord had his hands on that situation. If that had ignited that evening, we would have probably lost 3/4 of a neighborhood. Yes, and I am not exaggerating. Now, neighbors in the area had reached out before, just for context. And it's like, I don't think they really realize the steps to take upon getting there and realizing what was at hand. Kudos to the fire officers who who quickly responded, called OfReg, and their people came out immediately. Myself, Town West showed up. We were very new. We all showed up. We responded. And of course, you have to engage with your constituents. But when I tell you the temperatures, even in those drums, they were starting to expand. Let me tell you something. You would have had to be there to see it, to understand what I'm trying to describe to you. That I know it was the mercies of God that had his hands on us, on that situation. Because for the persons that were living in the yard and surrounding areas, I wouldn't be able to confirm at this stage how much gallons combined was on that at that location. That should all of that have ignited, what would have been the estimated span of damage that that could have done? I'm just happy that it was resolved. And I am just hoping that the enforcement section keeps an eye on these things. And I am hoping that by means of this show, that you will understand who to call in situations like this. Because unless that car if that car didn't catch fire, the magnitude of what was observed in that property would have never been known. Yes, literally, there was a gas station in a residential neighborhood, in layman's terms. And a car caught fire. And that then caused persons to check the area, or first responders to check the area. And what was discovered blew my mind. Yes. So to say that their job is not broad, the enforcement arm is critical as well. And I think what can be done in the future is in collaboration with some other departments, maybe a tip line would have been important, because what had happened was residents were complaining to their representatives, but felt that it was falling on deaf ear. And in one way, it was a silver lining because of this unfortunate car catching fire. But then that was the only relief that they got. I have to follow up to really see what happened in that case. But I must say, for about 2 or 3 days, the fire department were there. OfReg representatives came out as well. And it caused a big thing here in Prospect. So these are all the thing. Now, the legislation, fines, charges, whatever came out of that, I'll have to do some digging to find out of that. But let me tell you, we are a blessed place, because that could have gone really, really bad. As I continue with the conduct of market assessments as well, for what OfReg does is that they analyze competition levels and markets behaviors. And they also protect consumers through transparency they provide information to help the public understand the market. If you don't feel we're getting enough of that, I'm hoping that after this show, you will see a difference. You will see a change in how they approach public education. And OfReg also recommend policy changes to the cabinet. Yes. They cannot make policy. They can only advise, make recommendation. And these powers right now are clearly defined in the law. Nothing more, nothing less. So really the movement towards any legislation or considering any of their recommendations being made to the cabinet to get it going, to give it the green light for improvements, to give things more teeth, that rests on the shoulders of your cabinet. Yeah. But OfReg does not make policy. All they do is advise cabinet for cabinet's consideration. And then, of course, if there's legislation or regulations that needs to change, it doesn't move unless the green light is given by cabinet by way of the minister who's responsible for this department. Let me get to this question that came in. If OfReg doesn't set prices, then who does? Yeah, the companies, the private companies. I'm a little late with getting some of these. Private companies do. Yes. Fuel companies set their own prices, not OfReg. They and how they base them is based, like I said, on their overheads, their costing models, where they're located, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, OfReg only monitors the markets for fairness. They don't actually set the prices. Yeah. So this is the system here at home, and that's what we use. And pretty much it's the same system used around many countries around the world. So yeah, I hope that answers that. But yeah, it's not OfReg at all. Okay. 9368255 as we come down to the last half hour of Sabrina Speaks here on this Thursday evening, bringing you and hoping that you're getting a better understanding of OfReg's role and how it all works. Yep, keeping you safe as we talk about exactly what matters here and why should the average person care about average OfReg's mandate. Why? Yeah. Make them gas prices go up. You know what? Knowledge reduces frustration, And I think that it is key. All of these questions that you guys are asking and the comments that you're making is key, because you don't get aggravated or you don't get frustrated when you actually come from from a place of knowing. And when people don't understand how the system works, they fill in the blanks with assumptions, and you know how fast that can go. And those assumptions, my friends, can lead to frustration, blame unnecessarily, and definitely huge misinformation. But look, on the brighter side of things, when you know and understand who regulates what the law actually says, which I've done here in layman's terms today without going through layman's terms, line by line, what the regulator can legally do or not do, and how global markets affects all of us. At the end of the day, you don't know what you're doing right now. You are being empowered. You are now an empowered consumer because you look at going at the pump totally different. You look at OfReg, hopefully totally different. And you stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling like you're out in the dark. You stop feeling like things aren't happening, And that's why today I felt it was very important for me to bring clarity and not controversy, because that gets nowhere. That gets us nowhere. And I just took it from the law and pretty much trying to deliver it in layman's terms. And I thank you all for your WhatsApp messages and for your comments that you're actually placing. There's one. Does OfReg decide when fuel prices change? No, they don't. They don't. Fuel companies decide when they adjust their prices, and that's based on what they're purchasing it for. Yeah. No, but no, the answer is no, they don't. And this is, though, a common misconception, I must say. And it's it's important that we make that clear. This is a very big misconception. So OfReg only monitors the markets to ensure that there's fairness, and they do not improve nor do they deny price changes. Yeah, they don't have that control. No. No. Yep, there we go. So I'm doing my best here, keeping up. We got what? A little under a half hour to go. How global markets affect our local fuel prices. We kind of dabbled into that a little bit earlier. But fuel prices around the world, as we know, can be influenced by all sorts of things. Global oil supplies, refinery outputs, and we're seeing where some of them have pretty much come to a screeching halt because of damages. Some of them will take months, if not years. Some of them may not even come back anytime soon. We see where shipping costs as well, insurance rates can impact international events, like we're seeing what's happening. And of course, summer for us is coming. There's going to be lots more demand on the grid. Therefore, we're going to more than likely be using more as we come through this time. For the past 2 days, I've been saying there are jurisdictions, there are countries that are cutting back work days, like a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week, to try and conserve on their energy consumptions. And another thing is that what influences it is exchange rates as well. And what happened when these things shift? Prices also shift as well. Prices move. And here in the Cayman Islands, we do not control global oil markets. No, that's something that we need to remember. We do not control refinery outputs either. And we do not control the shipping costs. Neither do we control international events like what's happening. So, in all fairness, in all honesty, when these global prices rise, like I said at the beginning, Cayman will eventually feel it. And when prices fall, yeah, we eventually feel it. The key word there is eventually. But again, that only happens when the shipment arrives. Yes. And this is not just a Cayman issue. This is just by far and factual a global reality. So we're not different by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. This is a global reality. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that is what it is. And I hope that you're able to really understand even why they enforce the compliance. Because if anybody, for example, breaks the rules like the example that I gave, they're in the right to issue these fines and do all of those sort of stuff and penalties and work with levying charges that could end up somebody in court and enforcement notices as well. So it's good for them to also know what their remit is so that people who are caught breaching the law, let's say by illegally operating a gas station from a residential home, that's putting something else on steroids. That's impacting an entire neighborhood. Yeah. Big, 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 big. Yeah. Interesting question just came in. And I think something popped up here earlier on. Sabrina, can OfReg force companies to reveal their profit margins? I think that was Damian Henry that said something, and I had to look into that a little bit more. But I would have to look into that. What little I say is that they cannot force companies, from what I'm seeing, to publish. Yeah. And this is probably what Damian was getting after. I would have to dig into this a little bit more. But from what I'm seeing, and I stand to be corrected here, please don't quote me, but I stand to be corrected. What little I am getting is that they cannot force companies to publish their profit margin because unless the law specifically require it. And this is an oversight, not exposure. But I'll dig more into that as to why. And that's probably why the Office of the Ombudsman was trying to do that, because people were saying we're not being treated fairly here in the Cayman Islands because of certain things that are being protected. Yeah. And under the, let's say the fuel market regulations law, it's not public disclosure. So if that may be an amendment then that may be needed, which is what I think Damian was getting after. So let's see if there's any political appetite for that. Maybe this may be one of the recommendations that can be made be made either by the public or through OfReg, and see if there's a political appetite for it. I don't know. You asked the question. I'm doing my best to answer. Denver says, like the interest rates in our bank immediately increased at our convenience, reduce it. Same with the oil business. Yeah, we kind of drew that before. But I must say though, Denver, some of the banks really react within the same time. And I think I saw something as well today where interest rates have remained unchanged at 3.75 or something like that, 3 or 3.75. Yeah, so right now they're still relatively low, but I see some of our institutions here actually respond quite quickly. I must give them credit for that. Because people who don't have a fixed rate, they feel it. They feel it, and they cringe when they look at the markets and see interest rates go up, and they're already feeling it at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, let's do some myth busting facts for those of you who are playing catch up here. Myth is that OfReg controls fuel prices. The fact is, no, they do not. Okay. And I'm so happy I pulled this segment in just to pretty much bring it in as we wind down here this evening. And another myth is that OfReg can force companies to lower prices. The fact is, no, they cannot. Plain and straight. Another myth is that OfReg imports fuel. No, the fact is, private companies do, not OfReg. And another myth, OfReg is responsible for global price increases. The fact is, global markets drive prices, not OfReg. Yeah. Here's another misconception or a myth that OfReg can stop prices from rising or control them. No, the fact is, no regulator can stop global price movements. They're only a regulator. If you don't remember anything from today, remember that. OfReg is just a regulator. They make recommendations to the cabinet for cabinet to consider. And if legislative change or policy changes is needed, it goes nowhere unless there's a political appetite, unless cabinet, through the minister, pushes it forward. There's also a myth that OfReg is a political body. The fact is, they are an independent regulator established by law. So, I know we're going through some of y'all minds. That's okay. That's all right. I'm just here to be unbiased, as neutral as possible, and definitely making sure that you can't say that you don't have it all in a nutshell this evening. And I am hoping that what we actually shared here today, should the conversation come up again, that you would be in a better position. There were some persons, I think my cousin had said, somebody was Monday or Tuesday, there was an image where they had taken prices on a board of a gas station that shows the difference in price from one day to the next. So, even though it may not be $7, there has been a steady climb in gas prices from what information has been shared. I don't have, if that individual is hearing me, if you can send me the picture and I can use it without divulging where, I would like to know what day and the timestamps. But if you're seeing these things, guys, you are in a position now to know. And I hope that you realize exactly why and how the prices are increased. So OfReg is just a regulator, and they cannot stop global price shipments. They do not tell retailers how much to sell their gas for. Retailers are the ones that determine that. And there are a lot of factors. That will determine exactly what will drive the price of your gas up. What is the big takeaway from all of this, though, is that as we continue to see the instability of our gas, what's happening around the world right now, it opens us up to the reality that it's only a matter of time that it will actually impact us here in the Cayman Islands. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And that's a reality. How do you adjust and how do you prepare for that now? And how we prepare nationally is something that we will have to wait for our government to actually come out to give an official statement on. And talking about reserves, talking about how prepared we are from the utilities, from electrical, and how we can be responsible members of civil society and also do our part in conserving our energy use and consumption as well. That will play a critical role. We have places like our medical facilities, we have our supermarkets and all that sort of stuff. These are critical areas. And even though you may have a generator, hey, where that run off? You may have also solar panels and all that sort of stuff. But we're talking about this higher than just your home. We're talking and putting the spotlight now on a national responsibility with everything that's happening. And maybe you would just jump in your car and drive to the neighbor's house. Maybe now is a chance you don't drive to the neighbor's house. You walk to the neighbor's house if it's not that far away, if you're in the same community. Or think twice about having to go out. If you even order delivery and you see where the cost of delivery has gone up, yeah, it's going to go up because they're paying more at the pumps. There's a cost for everything. So you have to make the decision whether or not you want to use the comforts of a delivery service, knowing that it's going to more than likely attract a price, a higher price, because they in turn have to go fuel up. And then if you actually do it yourself, you're using your own. So of course you got to replace it. And this is going to impact utilities even at the supermarket. So it goes back to what we have been saying from the beginning, where it's a trickle-down effect. And eventually it will impact the prices that are on our shelves. It will impact that tray of eggs, that scoop of ice cream, that garden hose that you may need at some point. Yeah. It may impact these things. It may impact the next meal that you go out and have, the next birthday party. Yeah. The next platter that you order. It could have some significant impacts on those prices, all because of what's happening around us. And there may be, not speaking on behalf of our utilities company, there may be some interruptions in our electricity. Maybe. And this is why it's important to get ahead of the narrative. It's very important to keep the lines of communications open at all times so that people are not left in the dark, wondering, assuming, and filling these gaps with misinformation and not fact-based. Because at the end of the day, when you're armed with facts, when you know how the structure works, how the wheels turn, you don't panic. You don't fall for everything. You then ask more structured and sound questions. But that's okay if you ask a question that you may say is a little off, or you may feel that, oh gosh, I'm not smart enough, I shouldn't be asking this question. That's fine. There's no dumb question. You have every right to ask your leaders if you have a concern. It's for them to get back to you. And sometimes it helps. There's nothing wrong with going and doing a little research yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Not a thing wrong with that. Doing a little research yourself. But at the end of the day, I hope that you all realize right now exactly where this is derived, how it came about, exactly how we need to prepare, and get a better understanding of OfReg, as boring as it may be for some of you this evening. It will all tie in at the end of the day that puts you in a better frame of mind, better way of understanding. And hopefully, if you hear something, you can shut it down immediately, especially if it is not factual. Yeah, especially if it's not factual. Before I go today, I just want to remind people again this evening, thank you all for joining me this evening. Thank you for staying with me as well. That red sky, in case you missed it at the beginning, Red Sky at Night is taking place this Saturday from 4 until 11 at the Harkwell Theatre. And of course, this aims to be an evening of fun with live music, entertainment, local arts, crafts, products, local food as well. And if you've ever been to one of these, you know it aims to please, and it's usually well attended, hoping that the weather holds up, of course. And but we want to go out there, interact, and engage with all of our artisans as well. And for all of you, please note that the groundbreaking ceremony for the George Dixon Park in East End that was scheduled for this afternoon was postponed, and it's now for Thursday, March the 26th. That's next week, Thursday at 1:30. So yes, please adjust your calendars so that you can actually attend this. This is historic for the District of East End and hope to enhance that area as well. Now, I don't know if the RSVP still remains closed because they do have a week in advance. I can't speak on their behalf. But the key thing is to know that it did not happen today, and it is going to happen next week, Thursday at 1:30. Also, the local scholarship, government scholarships, you can now apply for these for creating higher education opportunities for our locals. Yeah. So you want to apply for those, please make sure you log on to the Ministry of Education and Training. And if you want to apply for those scholarships, make sure you go ahead and do that now. And also for the Proud of Them nominations, for those of you who know a young man or woman who has made significant contributions. Yes, nominations are now open for the Proud of Them Awards. It's back and looking for new inspiring stories. Please log on to youthservices.ky, Proud of Them, and for more information and nominate a young man or woman for it. It's quite easy. Can't say you didn't hear it here. Andrew, we could face what we hear of blackout periods, shutdown of service to conserve energy. Yeah, I'm quite sure. AC, like I said, Andrew, the other day, would become a luxury if we do our part. And I know some of us have these automatic timers. Maybe we need to set those to come on a little later. I have done some modifications here since I've been home, and I can say besides the fact that you're paying a month late, but based on my habits and stuff, I have seen a difference in my utility bills. I am more aware, I'm more conscious. And even though just doing this pulls a lot of energy, but there are certain things that you can do during the day that can make a significant difference in your utility bills. And I am being very honest with you, I have seen a difference. So, but because the fuel line, the cost of fuel, if that goes up, it doesn't matter how much less I use. If that's always outweighing my consumption, I could still have a high bill. And these are some of the conversations that I'm feeling we need to be hearing from that, so people will be aware and not shocked if these fuel costs is going to significantly impact our next bill. Because you'd be like, well, it was cool half the time. I wasn't home. Easter, we were out camping, yada, yada, yada. You got to understand it. And I'm hoping this conversation was able to open the door so people will understand the fuel factor rate and all of that sort of stuff and how that can impact with what's happening globally. Yeah. I hope to Christ we don't have to do with those blackouts, because when the electricity does come back on without a surge protector, it could do some damage to your appliances and all that sort of stuff. So my only advice to people is, well, please use as much surge protectors as you can on a lot of your stuff. It's hard to prove many a times. And I've heard people who have actually fought cases with their utility companies, and it's almost like you're fighting a losing battle. And then I've heard stories where people have been successful. So just try to help yourselves as well and be aware, be conscious that all of these are harsh realities. So yes, thank you so much for that. And I'm going to wind down here and leave you here today on this Thursday evening. As we wrap up the conversation, I want to, again, thank you all for participating this evening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with me. And I'm hoping that I leave you with the understanding of how things work and how it's empowering. I'm hoping that you will get a better standing of it, and that, it really, with a better understanding, a grasp of what's going on, it reduces frustration. Plain and Straight says you can also get a surge protector installed right at your panel box. Yes, Plain and Straight. You'd have to call. Thank you for that. Yeah, a lot of the big electrical companies actually offer that service. Thank you for that. So when the electricity does come back, it's attached directly to your panel box, and it goes through that before the sudden jolt to it. Yes, you're quite right. Excellent idea. So call any one of your electrical companies. Make sure they're certified now. Oh God. Yes, make sure it's a certified person. You don't want to have a plumber doing your electrical work, or an architect either. So make sure you understand it. Jimbo says, you're more than welcome. Thank you, Sabrina, for another informative show. I used emoji. I know, I saw you, you brute, as I understand and I can see fit. The younger generations will just have to get over themselves and buck it up. Yep. Again, thank you. You're more than welcome. That's how I look at it as well, my love. That's really how I do as well. Andrew says, buy some of those big hand fans. Oh, and that are old people, old big hand fans. I remember Miss Bride Arch. Oh yeah, in church. I remember them. Remember before we had AC, Andrew? I remember quite distinctly the big fans with the lace around it and those big hats. I can see her right now. You took me back down memory lane there. It's always good to go back. Yes, but understanding really, friends, understanding exactly how things work is empowering, and it definitely reduces frustration. And what it also does, it builds trust. And it can also help us to navigate life with more clarity and less confusion. So I'm with you about those emojis, Jim. Yeah, Clean and Straight agrees. So what OfReg has done here in this episode of Sabrina Speak is that OfReg was created to regulate essential services. Just to take it home as a final lap, they were there to regulate essential services, not to control global markets, not to set prices, not to interfere even with private business operations beyond what the law allows them to do. And their mandate specifically is safety oversight. You something else, Andrew. Their mandate is safety oversight, competition, transparency, and consumer protection. And when we understand that, though, we can direct our energy to questions, just as I alluded to earlier on, and be clear about what our expectations are in the right place and the right time. And you would be blown away at the fact that knowledge is power. And that's why we not could keep on a dumbing under your thumb anymore. No, there's a time and place for everything. And now is the time that we uplift ourselves, we educate and learn together, and clarity brings peace. Clarity is peace. And I'm just hoping that you all got that today, and that you will take away nuggets from this that will last with you for a lifetime as we continue to evolve and with everything that's going on in the world around us. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Andrew, you remember what we're talking about, right? Yeah, I see the laugh. Those pickle fans, boy. And then that back, two pews, or the last pew as you enter the door to the immediate left. I can see it now. Yeah. Yep. And those fans going on the wall, and you had to pull them with the string. Yeah. And the windows open. You got to hope that the frogs don't come in as well. Those were the days, my friend. Those were the days. I'll never forget them. But it was a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking with me. And definitely, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, but to also get people on this educational journey that we are as we continue to lift, inspire, motivate, and encourage each other in this space. It has been my pleasure bringing you this episode of Sabrina Speaks. And until tomorrow, where we look forward to Open Mic Friday, I bid you adieu. Good night. God bless. Stay safe. Love you lots. Good night.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.